Hi, welcome to Slow Flow to Go. So we're going to start standing again today. You won't need any props other than if you want a blanket for underneath your knees, if your knees get a bit sensitive or you're on a hard floor. So coming to start in a standing position and bringing the feet to hips width apart, maybe a bit wider, somewhere where you can feel balanced. And then if it feels comfortable, allowing your eyes to close. So perhaps starting today by working from the foot foundation and drawing up. So starting by noticing the points on the feet that have contact with the ground and the points that support you. And maybe seeing if you can bring your weight in between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. It's okay if it kind of moves around between those points. But seeing if you can find yourself in a nice, stable, grounded position. And then drawing up through the legs, finding a little bit of extra length through the legs. And when you get to the pelvis, seeing if you can lift the upper body out of the pelvis. So getting a feeling of the upper body drawing long from the pelvis. And while you're seeing if you can draw the upper body long, seeing if you can tuck the lower ribs in just slightly. So getting a feeling of the front body being long and the back body being long. So sometimes when we open up through the body, it can be tempting to want to arch the spine as we open the chest. So seeing if you can keep the front and the back body long and open. Maybe getting a sense of broadenness through your chest. Maybe the arms come down by the sides. Maybe the palms face forward. And then a very slight tucking of the chin to allow the back of your neck to find its length and drawing up through the crown of the head. So through the very top of the head, imagining that point being pulled upwards. And taking a moment to stand here, maybe this feels like a comfortable familiar position, maybe it feels a little awkward. It's okay if it feels a little bit strange. Often our bodies are not in this alignment for very much of the day. But it's certainly a nice way to start the day. It's a nice way to start class. It provides a bit of openness through the body. Often in the day, the body starts to close in, whether it's because we're working at a desk or even if we're exercising, things like running and bike riding, often the body can be closed in. So taking a moment to allow the body to be open and to feel spacious in a standing position. So we often talk about feeling spacious in our sort of like lying down poses, but actually finding spaciousness in this standing pose is really good too. And then while you're here, seeing if you can bring in that breath that we've been practicing together. So drawing the breath into the lower part of the lungs, the lower ribs, broadening out to the sides and to the back as you fill the body with air. And exhaling slowly through the mouth. And taking a few more breaths here to observe the passage of air as you inhale and exhale. What does it feel like for you today? What's going on in your body today? On your next inhale, you can allow your eyes to open, or if you want to, you can keep them closed. We're just going to take some really nice neck stretches. So you can absolutely take these with the eyes closed if you want to stay in this zone. Starting off by pressing down just lightly with the heel of the palm on the right side. So keeping the arm by the side of the body. And as you do that, you could draw the left ear to the left shoulder. So you'll notice just pressing down really lightly with that palm just provides that extra little bit of openness in the right side of the neck. And if you want to open and close your jaw here a couple of times, nice and wide, that also gets into the neck and shoulder muscles. So tight jaw definitely impacts tight neck and shoulders. So if you know you've been feeling tightness in your neck and shoulders, then taking a little open and close of your jaw, opening it nice and wide, and then allowing it to close. Inhaling, coming back to center. Nice and slow, we'll come over to the other side. So this time pressing the left heel of the hand down slightly, and then really gently allowing the head to roll over to the right. So the right ear towards the right shoulder. And maybe checking in, does one side feel different from the other? If you know your neck or your shoulders tight on this side, taking that open and close through the jaw. And then inhaling back to center. Opening your eyes when you're ready. We'll now start to bring in the side body as well. So getting into the side waist and into the side of the hip. So when you're ready, you're going to lift your right foot from the floor and bring it behind your left, staying on the tiptoes. If you're feeling wobbly, of course, you can come against a wall. And then the left hand draws down the left thigh. As you inhale, the right arm comes up. And maybe you reach up, staying tall here. Maybe you can already feel it in the side of the waist. And if you want to, you can maybe have a bit of a lean over towards the left. So maybe that right arm comes over to the left just slightly. So don't worry about folding yourself up into a pretzel here. This is a really gentle stretch. Just taking it to wherever feels good. And maybe you begin to feel that down kind of the outside of this hip into the side waist. These are places that are really difficult to stretch and open up. So breathing into that space, allowing a bit of openness. We're going to do quite a lot of work opening up the side of the body and the hips today. They can get quite ignored in the rest of life, so this will be an opportunity to get everything a bit looser in those areas. And then inhaling, arms come back to center, and you can bring that foot back to center as well. So coming over onto the other side, again, grab hold of a wall if you're feeling wobbly today. Otherwise, left foot comes behind right onto the tiptoes. Finding your balance, you can find a little spot to focus on if you want. And then your right hand draws down the right thigh first of all. Maybe your head comes over that way as well. Inhale, lifting up the left arm. And then option if you want to also bring the left arm over slightly as well. So your choice here, how far you take it. And then exploring the sensations going on in this side of the body. So does it feel any different? Maybe you feel quite open today. Maybe there's quite a lot of tightness. So if you are feeling tight there, then don't worry. Hopefully by the end of this class, things will feel a little bit looser. And it's quite normal to feel tight in this part of the body. This isn't exactly a position we take in life very often. Okay, on your next inhale, finding your way back to center, and the left foot comes back to center as well. Taking your feet back to hips width apart and finding length through the body like we did at the beginning. Inhale, arms come out to the side, up overhead, reaching tall. And exhale, back down again. One more time, inhale, arms come up. Maybe you follow with the gaze, you don't have to. And this time maybe you want to turn the palms so that they face down as they come down as you exhale. And then if you're not already at the front of your mat, coming up to the front of your mat now, bringing the feet as wide as the mat, interlacing the fingers behind your back. You can press the palms together if you want, or you can leave the hands open. As you inhale, seeing if you can open and broaden through the chest, drawing and rolling the shoulder blades down your back. And then as you exhale, taking a bend through the knees and then folding forward from the hips, allowing the head to be heavy here, and maybe the arms start to lift up a little bit. Maybe they stay close to the body, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't look the same as mine. So just enjoying a little bit of a stretch and an opening through the front of the body. Drawing the hands away from the body if you can to get that openness through the shoulders. And then inhale, pressing through the feet as you rise up. Back up to stand, keeping that bend in the legs if that feels okay. Keeping the interlace of the fingers, and then maybe you take a little bit of an open of the chest towards the sky, maybe the gaze comes up. And then exhale, calming back down. So really nice and slow on these transitions. And inhale, rising up once more, pressing through the feet to help you find stability as you come up, keeping the bend in the knees, and then drawing the hands down and away from the body, opening up the chest. And then when you're ready, straightening your legs, releasing the hands, and bringing the feet to hips width. So we'll come through a really nice slow sun salutation. If you're feeling that you need a little bit more of that opening and closing, you're welcome to stay with that. Otherwise, taking whatever variations feel good today. As you inhale, arms reach out to the side, up overhead, palms touching. Exhaling, hands come together, hinging at the hips. You can keep a bend in the legs here if you want as you bring the hands down to the floor and forward fold, letting the head relax. Or if you want to, you can straighten the legs. The hands don't have to reach the floor here, they can have a little dangle and forward fold. Inhaling, drawing hands either up to shins as the spine comes long and the gaze comes down, or up to thighs, so wherever you can find that length through the spine. Exhale, back down into your forward fold. Let's come through that one more time. Inhaling, hands come to shins or thighs, opening through the chest, gaze coming down, imagining the spine being long from the crown of the head to the tailbone. As you exhale, bending the knees, hands by the feet, and stepping back into plank. You can bring the knees down straight away, or you can keep the knees lifted. And then when you're ready, if you kept the knees lifted, allowing the knees to come down, untucking the toes, and then bending the elbows towards the back of your mat, shifting forward slightly as you lower down to the ground. So you can come down onto elbows here first if you want, if your shoulders are feeling a little tight, or you can lower down through your little kind of mini press up thing that we add in here. As you inhale, pressing through the hands, rolling the shoulders down the back, maybe taking a baby cobra for this first one. So in baby cobra, the little fingertips can hover from the ground. And then exhale, lowering back down, pressing through your hands as you inhale, back up to knees. Again, you can come up onto elbows if you prefer. And then when you get there, tucking your toes underneath. And we'll come into a downward facing dog. If you'd rather take child's pose for this first one, feel free to take a child's pose. So if you're taking child's pose, knees apart, big toes together, and back down onto the heels of the feet. Otherwise, pressing through the hands and lifting the hips into downward facing dog. So maybe you keep a nice bend in the knees for this first downward dog, focusing on your spine becoming long and seeing if you can let the head relax, maybe a little shake from side to side. And really grounding down through the knuckles of the fingers. So if you notice that your hands have lifted a little bit, seeing if you can flatten them towards the ground. And then if you're in child's pose, come in to join us in downward dog as we walk together up to the top of the mat, one step at a time. And we'll meet together in halfway lift. So hands coming to shins or thighs, spine drawing long. Exhaling into your forward fold. As you inhale, taking that nice slow roll up through the spine, one vertebrae at a time. Head comes up last. And then arms reaching out to the side, up overhead, and hands come together in front of your heart. So we'll come through that once more with a few bits added on. Feel free to take child's pose at any time that feels good today. Inhaling, arms reaching up overhead. Exhaling, hinging at the hips to forward fold. As you inhale, drawing long in your halfway lift, hands to shins or thighs. Exhale, bending the knees, hands by the feet, stepping back into plank and holding that high plank if you like for a breath, or lowering the knees straight away. If you kept the knees lifted, then lowering them down, untucking the toes, and then coming down, bending the elbows towards the back of the mat as you lower all the way to the ground. See if you can keep the spine long here. Once you get there, inhaling into your baby cobra, or maybe a deeper cobra. If you're taking a deeper cobra, keeping those shoulder blades away from the ears, or the tips of the shoulders away from the ears, lowering back down, and then pressing through the hands to come back up onto your knees. And then option here to take your child's pose, or tucking the toes underneath, lifting the hips as you press through feet and hands into downward facing dog. We'll take a couple of breaths in downward dog. So if you've taken child's pose, then coming to meet us here in a second. So finding a way to downward facing dog if you've taken child's pose. And then when you're ready, on your inhale, lifting the right foot forward in between the hands. So you might want to come up onto the left toes, creating a bit of space. And then bringing the right foot forward. You can use your hands to help you get there. Once you get there, bringing the back foot flat to the ground, keeping a bend in your front knee, knee over the ankle, and then grounding down through both feet, using that to help you rise up into Warrior Two. So in Warrior Two, one hand reaching to the front of the mat, one to the back, and you're facing towards the left side of your mat. So hips are to the side. As you inhale, flipping the front palm, bringing the back palm lightly to the back thigh, and then reaching up tall. Keeping the bend in that front leg if you can, getting a little openness through the right side body. As you exhale, bending the right elbow, bringing the right elbow onto the right thigh. And then as you inhale, reaching the left arm up, you can either keep an open up to the sky here, or if it feels okay, turning the front palm to face down and bringing it over the ear, the arm over the ear. So if you're doing this, seeing if you can still stay open through the chest. And opening up the left side of the body this time. Inhaling, rising up back to center in Warrior Two. So finding yourself really centered over your hips, grounding down through both feet, and then reaching out as far as you can with your fingertips on both sides. You can bring your gaze over the front fingers if you want, or you can stay out to the side. Let's come through that one more time. So inhale, front palm lifts up, back hand to back thigh, and then lifting up with the right fingertips to the sky into reverse warrior. As you exhale, back to center, bending the right elbow, placing it onto the right thigh, and then lifting the left arm up and maybe overhead, palm down to the ground. So bringing the right arm by the ear, the left arm by the ear. Right arm by the ear would be very tricky at this point. And then taking a breath here, opening up the left side of your body. Inhaling, coming back up to center for one final breath in Warrior Two. And then exhale, windmill the hands either side of the feet, spinning onto the back toes, and when you're ready, stepping back into plank. So you can skip plank at any time, come into child's pose or to downward dog, lowering the knees when you're ready. untucking the toes, and then coming down, elbows to back of the mat. Inhaling into your version of Cobra. Seeing if you can keep the chest open and the shoulders down. Exhaling, lowering down to the ground. And then finding your way back up onto your knees. And taking downward facing dog when you're ready. Tucking the toes under, pressing through the hands and lifting the hips high. So we'll come straight onto the other side here when you're ready. Inhale, left foot lifts up, coming up onto the right toes, giving a little bit of space for that left foot to come forward in between the hands, using your hands to help you if you want. And then bringing the back foot flat, bending through that front knee. And inhale, rising up into Warrior Two. So you can have a little rearrange of your feet once you get up here if you want to be wider, if your feet are a bit too narrow, whatever feels good. And reaching out with the fingertips, shoulders centered over the hips. As you inhale, flipping your front palm, taking it into reverse warrior. So when you're ready, back hand to back leg, reaching up with the fingertips of the left hand. And exhale back to center, bending the left elbow onto the left thigh, and then right hand reaches up and maybe overhead. So palm facing down if it's overhead, and seeing if you can roll that shoulder open. So it may be that for the right hand to be completely over like this, that you find yourself closing in a little bit. If that's the case, then just take the arm a little higher until you get to a place where you feel that you're nice and open. Inhaling back to center. And then from here, turning the palms facing upwards, both of them. Letting the hands get a bit heavy, drawing the shoulder blades down the back and reaching out. And then when you feel that the shoulders are nice and open, just turning the hands over, so rotating at the wrist, keeping everything else the same. And hopefully that will feel like a bit more of an open pose. Let's come through once more. Inhale, front palm lifts up, back hand to back thigh into reverse warrior, opening up the left side of the body. Exhaling into your extended side angle, so bending the elbow, and then arm comes up and overhead any amount, keeping the chest really nice and open, and palm down towards the ground. So checking in that you're not collapsing on this side. Sometimes it can feel quite tempting to kind of let the body have a little collapse. So really pressing that elbow into the thigh and finding space so that the left shoulder's away from the ear. Inhaling back up to center, reaching out, maybe sinking down a little bit for this last breath. And then hands either side of the foot, spinning onto that back toe and stepping back into plank. Coming through your vinyasa if that feels good. Lowering the knees, untucking toes and finding your way down. Inhaling, peeling up from the breastbone into baby cobra or cobra. And exhale when you're ready, pressing back up to the knees and finding your way into downward facing dog one last time. So really allowing the head and the neck to be soft here, gaze between the back legs, pressing through the hands, lifting the hips high. On your next inhale, shifting forward slightly and then lowering the knees down, untucking toes. From here, we'll walk the hands back, coming to sit on the heels. You can bring your blanket in here if you want to fill in this little space, if that feels better, if it's uncomfortable to be kneeling. We won't be in this position for very long. Bringing the hands behind the body. And then as you inhale, option to press through the hands and lift the hips off the heels. So it may be that you just lift a little bit here. That's okay. So you can take little kind of inhales, exhales to lower. If you're feeling a little bit more open today, it might be that as you press through the hands, that the hips can come up a little higher, maybe the head and the chest can open. So it's entirely up to you how far you go. Listen into your body. There's no right or wrong with this pose other than making sure that you stay with what's comfortable. So having a few breaths to explore here. You're inhaling as you're lifting up and exhaling as you lower. So absolutely okay to just stay with little pulses and keeping their gaze up. And you'll notice that this begins to get into the front of the legs. If you come up a bit further, it can become a bit of a back bend. So being really mindful of your spine if you're taking it a bit deeper. So one last time, inhaling to wherever feels good. And exhale to lower down. And then bringing the hands back in front of the knees. You may want to turn sideways on your mat for this, or you might be okay. So it depends, you'll just need a little bit of length to the side. So I haven't got that because I've got the wall there. So if you're in the same position as me, you might want to be this way. And if you're on a hard floor or you've got sensitive knees, then this is a good time to pop a blanket underneath your knees. So when you're ready, we're going to bring the weight into the left knee, so we can lift the right leg up off the floor. So you're welcome to bring hands down to do this, that's absolutely fine. And then ground that right foot down to the floor and coming back up onto the knees. When you're ready, so a little bit similar to some of the other stuff we've been doing today, the right hand comes down the right leg, palm up. And this is just so that we don't end up pressing in. If we go palm down, sometimes it's tempting to really press. And then as you inhale, the left arm comes up. An option for the left arm to come slightly over if you want. So again, we're working on opening up the side body. And as always here, if you notice as the left arm comes over that you're turning in, then bring the left arm a little higher. As you inhale, coming back to center. So you can stay doing that one again if you'd like. That's a really nice way to open up the side of the body. If you'd like to take a little balance, then feel free to give this a go if you want. So you can have a little go and then see which one suits you best. If you're taking the balance, you're bringing the left hand down. So it'll be in line with the knee. And you kind of want it underneath the shoulder or thereabouts. Finding a little spot to focus on, something that's not moving. If you prefer, you can keep that right foot down to the ground and take almost like we did for extended side angle, where the right arm comes up, palm down, opening up the side of the body. So that's an option here if you want to stretch out the other side, but without taking the balance. If you do want to take the balance, then bring the right hand to the waist and then begin to float the foot off the floor. And maybe that arm comes up. And then back down. So it can get a bit crampy if you keep this here for a long time. So you might want to take a little reach over the top. And then maybe coming back to center. So we'll just take that really short balance there. And then bringing that right leg in. And maybe you take a little shuffle side to side with the hips. So sometimes that balance can really get to work on these muscles, at the side of the hips, the top of the legs. So if that felt like it was cramping up, then don't worry, feel free to take that one with the leg down instead. We won't hold them for very long anyway. So we'll come through on the other side. So again, if you want to bring hands down to the ground first, you're welcome. Bringing the left foot out and grounding down. Rising up when you're ready. And then left hand comes palm facing up onto the left leg. Sliding that left hand down the leg. And then inhale, lifting the right arm up and maybe overhead. So coming into your gate pose on this side, wherever feels good here, just checking in that you're not pressing into the knee, so seeing if you can be above or below the knee if possible. And again, you can keep that right arm just facing completely upwards. You don't have to take the fold over to the side with the right arm if you don't want to. And then inhaling back to center. So if you tried that extra bit on the other side and you know you'd rather stay with that, then feel free to stay giving that a go again. If you want to come over onto the other side, right hand in line with right knee. And then inhale, you can take that extended side angle, bringing the left arm over. So maybe that feels nice for you today to just enjoy that openness, keeping the foot grounded. If you'd like to try that balance for one breath, then reaching up to the sky, or if you want, bringing the hand to the waist first. So sometimes that can help with balance, is to just start with one thing happening. And then lifting up the left leg, maybe you float the left arm for one breath, and then back down. Stretching out, reaching the arm overhead, and then finding a way back to center. And then whichever variation you took, bringing that left knee back into center, bringing the hands onto the hips. Maybe you take a little circle with the hips just to release the side body and the hips there. And then coming on to hands and knees before we lower down, just taking a couple of cat-cows. So releasing the spine, hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, drawing the spine long. As you inhale, hips rise, and then chest opens and expands. As you exhale, tucking, rounding the spine, creating a little bit of openness through the back of the body. And coming through one more time into your cow. Exhaling into cat. And when you're ready, finding your way back to center, bringing the feet out to the side, coming to sit down. We're going to find our way onto our backs. So when you're ready, scooting your way about halfway up your mat, feet about hips width, and lowering down. And then keeping the knees bent here, we're going to do just a tiny bit of openness into the hips. So sometimes when we open the side body, we become really aware that the hips are tight. So just finishing off, opening up this center part of the body with a little bit of hip work. So when you're ready, lifting the right foot from the floor, and then opening up the right knee so that the ankle can come onto the left thigh. If you're feeling quite tight today, you might find that actually as you begin to open up that knee, that feels like enough here. So if it does, then stay here. If you need to have a little bit more intensity in that openness, then you can lift the foot from the floor and you can hold on, interlacing fingers either behind the thigh or behind the shin. So seeing if you can keep an openness through the chest and the head on the ground, no matter which one you take. And the focus here is on keeping that knee opening up towards the side. So, keeping this knee opening outwards. If you start to notice it creeping in as you grab hold of the shin, then maybe come back to thigh. And then maybe allowing your eyes to close as we begin to wind down class. Sending your breath into that right hip, especially if it's feeling tight. Seeing if with each exhale, maybe you can actually imagine a little bit of that tightness releasing and letting go. Staying here for a couple more breaths. And then if you lifted that left foot from the floor, allowing the left foot to come down, keeping the legs as they are. And then as you exhale, slowly bringing the legs in exactly this position over to the left. So keeping the legs as they are, rocking over on the hips so that this right foot comes down flat to the floor. So we're coming into a little twist, but with the legs staying in that figure 4 position. And then you can use that left hand to help still open up the right hip and the knee. And then you can bring your right hand out to the side and then gaze over your right fingertips. So taking a kind of a spinal twist, but keeping that position with the legs. And taking one more breath in your twist. On your next inhale, bringing the right hand back down to the side of the body, gaze to center. And then slowly rolling back to center, keeping the feet in the same position. The left foot comes to the floor. And then using your hands to move your right leg out of position. Maybe you want to draw it into the chest for a second and take just a couple of little circles here, interlacing behind the shin or the knee. And then right foot comes down to the ground. So we'll do the same on the other side. So when you're ready, lifting up your left foot and then opening the knee out to bring the left ankle onto the right thigh. Taking a moment here to see how this feels. So sometimes, even if normally we can hold on behind knees or thigh, it actually can just feel good on a day when you're feeling tight to stay as you are. If you want to, of course, you can lift that right foot and then interlace fingers behind the thigh or perhaps behind the shins. So as you're trying out these different variations, feeling into your body and working out how intense a stretch does your body need, what allows you to still stay open, head comfortably to the floor, chest staying fairly open, what allows the knee to open up, and perhaps most importantly, what position can you still allow deep breath to open your body, deep steady breath. So if you notice your breath becoming a little held or a little short, then that's definitely a good thing to listen into, normally a sign that the backing out is a good idea. And sending your breath deep down into that left hip. If for any reason your hips are feeling really open today, then drawing the foot closer to the hips will create an even deeper stretch. I personally don't need that today, but if you do, then that's available for you if you need that. Taking a couple more breaths here, really imagining space in that left hip. Is there any more room that you could let go? Can you use your breath to help you let go? And then if your foot is lifted, uninterlacing the fingers, lowering the foot down, keeping the legs exactly where they are as you roll over onto the right hip and bringing that left foot down to the ground. And then option here to bring the left arm out to the side, gaze over the left hand, using your right hand if you want to keep that knee open. And taking the spinal twist, so still getting into the hip here, but also opening up through the spine. Taking one more breath here in your twist. Inhaling, allowing the head to come back to center, left arm comes down to the side of the body. And then gently allowing your legs to come back to center, using your hands to draw that left knee in, maybe interlacing the fingers behind the shin and taking a few circles, releasing the hip. You can do a few one way, a few times the other way, whatever feels good. Excuse me. And then bringing that left foot down to the ground. And when you're ready, you can open up the legs if you want. You can take a windscreen wiper from side to side first if you like. We're coming into Shavasana, into the final pose, getting the body ready for rest. When you get there, allowing your eyes to close, the body to open up. And taking an inhale through your nose, filling up your body. Exhaling out through the mouth, maybe a deep sigh. One more time, inhaling, filling your body up with oxygen, with air, with goodness. Exhaling to let it all go. And allowing that exhale to really draw your body deep down into the earth, being totally supported. Letting your feet open up to the sides. Letting your palms open, your jaw relax. Finding space in between the eyebrows. Giving permission for your body to be heavy, to let go in this position. Taking a few moments here to be in this stillness, in this quiet. And I really encourage you to stay here for at least another 2 or 3 minutes today in this position. before you get ready to go on with the rest of your day. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste.